All right, so my anxiously awaited Kickstarter for the Invisible Sun role-playing game is here. It's in this box. It's allegedly a black cube, but we'll see when we open it up. I've seen pictures, it's probably black. It's a 30-pound box. It's insane. This store, Fanfare, will be carrying it. The store's official copies have not arrived yet, but by the time you're watching this, they will have ultimately, because we're not going to air this video until they get here. So, each of the Kickstarters came with secrets. Mine are the red secrets. It's red on black, so you can't read that, but it says red. All right. All right, so this is gonna actually require me to turn this upside down, which I don't really want to do, but there we go. Cool. That's out of the way. This way. As you can see, very well packed, so no worries about damage. I don't know which way is up.
Here you go.
Is that up? All right then. Is that out of the way? All right. Okay, so let's see. Where's the let's get this open here. And on this side. Alrighty. Oh, so cool. It's an outer lay for sales purposes, barcodes and some images and stuff like that. Not required. Okay, now I really don't know which way is up. We're gonna try this. Nope. Now it's a puzzle box.
This is part of it.
This looks
figuring
promising.
out how to open it. Ooh. Fancy. Oh, dang.
And you can see in, because I'm on the back side. Can you get the top of this? There's a really nice foil stamp. This is red foil right here. That's the Invisible Sun logo. All right. And I'm moving around to the front side of this. I'm gonna sit down. Here, Liz, let's give you a chair.
Wow, thanks. It's probably the nicest thing he's ever done for me.
There's always a first. So we'll start with books. Down here in this section, player's envelope. You have summoned the black cube, now behold its treasures. So this must be a how-to. To absorb it all, there are 9 steps. When you're done, you'll understand why it's important that there are 9 steps. There are several numbers that are important in the role-playing game Invisible Sun. 9 is one of them. So it says to open the player's envelope and remove the player tomes. So player tomes are character sheets, and there's a different kind of character sheet for each of the different orders of magic, and they're gonna look different. So we have, the advances are very organized. They're probably closest to your classical D&D mages that memorize magic. This one I think is Weaver. Weavers, is that, that's got a little thing to hold it shut. Weavers pull their magic kind of out of the air. They're closest to maybe a mage role-playing game or the old Ars Magica role-playing game, if you happen to know that one. What is this one? Goetica are summoners, so you can see all the circles. So cool. Makers are artificers, so theirs is going to be kind of with construction in mind. And the 5th order is kind of a non-order. So their sheet is non-traditional.
Yes.
Yep. And there's handouts for all the different types of characters, tips for players. Very cool. set that stuff all aside over here. What is it to do next? You remove the 4 main books. All right, they're going to be under here. I'll just set all this cool stuff up here. 4 books. Whoop, more cool stuff. All right, the key, the gate, the way, and the path. The key is player information. It's the key, the book, The Key. And each of these books are full color and absolutely beautiful. Example of artwork.
Wow.
We'll get to this thing later. The gate is primarily stuff for the game master, but it does have some player information. It says the first 2 chapters are for players, and then after that you get to the chapter on game mastering. Lucky flip there. The path, oh, that's the last book. The way is the book of magic. Read the first chapter if you're a player, and the rest of it is kind of referential. So, the Maker's Matrix. This is a chart, a flow chart that the makers use to make artifacts? Sure, we'll go with artifacts. The things that they make. And the path is only DM stuff. So I'm gonna peek into this for just a split second here. And yeah, it talks about the various suns in the Invisible Sun role-playing game. There are 8 suns. They are in a path from the gray to the pale to the gold. And that'll be more dramatically presented on one of the other things that we have in here. When I'm ready to play, I'm not ready to play, but I'm going to show stuff off anyway. So there's a cool poster. This poster here is actually going to show the Path of Suns.
Whoa.
And it starts with the silver sun, green, blue, indigo, gray, pale, red, and gold, and then works backwards up here through the night side of the various suns. And so each sun essentially is 2 different realms. And then that makes 16 plus the invisible sun, which does not have a night side, for the 17 number that I mentioned before that is important. Things. Envelope of Secrets.
Ooh.
I haven't opened that yet. Actual wax seal, very cool. Leave it to Monte Cook Games to not leave out the small stuff. The guiding hand, this is one of the cooler things that's in here, is actually a campaign guidance book. Place to write down characters, stuff about them. The first session is kind of a character creation session. The desideratum is kind of their reason for getting together as a play group. And then there's things for each session and what happens in them. So, great way to keep track of everything. Bookmarks. What's this? Grimoire. Player sheets for spells. Cool. And an art book. So, this right here, if you haven't watched the Kickstarter video, that image with the umbrella with tentacles is one of the first images anybody ever saw regarding Invisible Sun. It was at Gen Con on several posters and stuff just before they launched the Kickstarter. So it shows off kind of what Saturnine, a core city in the setting, looks like, and kind of a 20th gaslight sort of thing, but it transcends all of that as the setting is literally surreal. All right, now into these little drawers. Thud.
Forgot about the drawers. There's so much stuff.
There's so much stuff. Envelope full of props. It's going to be things like, if you noticed in the artwork we were just showing off, there was a poster on one of the walls for Zero's Bar. One of the props is like a menu at Zero's. Let's stack those over there. Weaver stuff. So Vance's spells come in different sizes, literally, and they lay them out on a grid. As they advance in power, their grid gets bigger. So they take up different size spaces. I don't know what those are. Makes sense, I suppose, that I wouldn't. Oh, goodness. This is the Sooth deck. I'm going to get into this because the Sooth deck is kind of a core component to the game system. It is essentially like a tarot deck. According to Money Cook Games, there's nothing actually magical about the game, but if you watch the Woman with Hollow Eyes actual play on Twitch or now on YouTube, they constantly contradict that because they pull cards that are very appropriate to what their environment is. So these are in 5 different suits, and then each of them has a number so they can be used to replicate a 10-sided die if necessary. This the game of Invisible Sun uses 10-sided dice. They're also linked to various suns. Your characters have a heart, and they can be linked to your heart. And so these represent, as they're laid out on that poster with the map of suns, as these get laid out on there, they represent the ebb and flow of the winds of magic. This cloth is the Path of Suns that is intended for use. The poster is really just intended to be up. So this Path of Suns is the Path of Suns that you would use during the course of the game, laying the Sooth cards on them as you play. Just drape this over here. Oh, what is this? Oh, more advanced spells. The dice, very pretty. You have 1 mundane die, and then the rest of your dice are magical. You can see them there. And you can see on the mundane die that it's on a 0. A 0 is actually low, as opposed to a lot of role-playing games where you represent a 10 by just a 0 on the die. In this case, that is a failure. But if you roll a 0 on the magical die, it's not even a 0. That symbol represents flux, and it means that your magic has gone awry and some weird stuff happens. Not necessarily bad weird, just weird. Because, as I said, the setting is actually surreal. All right, here's another map, nice cloth map of the city of Satterine, which is kind of where all of the campaigns are likely to start. So your players are newly returned to or live in Satterine. I'm trying to see if I can spot the district that they would live in. But no, I don't know the map well because this is literally the first time I've seen it. So I'm going to just put this away. This, the city is under the indigo sun. The place I'm sitting right now, Fanfare, is under the gray sun technically, as this setting is intended to kind of represent the real world and things in them. Money Cook Games, if you play Numenera or The Strange, you find lots of decks that represent things that you can just one-off items. So there's a whole, these are all spells that you can learn, regardless of which type of caster that you are. And then there are things called ephemera objects. These are going to be close to like the Numenera from Numenera, that you just have little gizmos that do one-shot things. And then incantations. I actually don't know what's the difference between an incantation and a spell, but surely there's something, or they wouldn't be 2 different decks. Drop those back in here just so I can stow out a little bit more easily. Move this out of the way and get into the final drawer. A GM's envelope. I won't spoil that for anybody. Pull this out of here. Nice foam holding this, the Testament of Suns. This also occupies your Path of Suns board, and when you've put all the cards out, your 9th Sooth card is going to hang out in the Testament of Suns and is given more power by it, and then becomes a little bit more lasting working on your campaign for a while, as opposed to the other ones that you just pay attention to the most recent one. This box has objects of power and then a bunch of cubes, which I am sure represent either acumen or possibly joy and despair. Which are all kind of forms of experience points, if you will, in this game. Acumen is used to gain kind of, I'm going to call it mundane power, but nothing in this game is really mundane. And Joy and sorrow is what you use to grow your characters, like core development. If you get one joy and one despair, you combine them into a crux, and that crux is used to then grow your character. In the same way that, you know, in real life, we don't really just grow by all of the things that are good that happen to us. We learn from our mistakes too, at least hopefully we do. So that's all the stuff in here. And I am going to then spend the rest of, well, my foreseeable future pawing through this and reading books. If you have any questions about it, feel free to stop in and talk to me. The trick will be getting me to stop. Thanks for watching, and have a good afternoon.